So this is my 2017 Alfa Romeo Giulia TI. So all the non-quadrifolios have the 2-liter 8-speed ZF transmission, which is an awesome combination. So what I like about this 8-speed transmission is that it uses the gears to make up for all the speed deficiencies. I'm gonna let this car in front of me get a little bit of a distance so we can build up a little bit of a gap, and then we're gonna go. All right, here we go. Ready? All right, here we go. So, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It just keeps going and going. When does this thing stop shifting? It just keeps shifting and shifting and shifting. It's amazing. It's a lot of fun though. So you're never in the wrong gear with this thing. You can always find the right gear, which is a lot of fun. But it's hilarious. The first time I ever took this thing and I wanted to go through the gears, it just kept going and going, and I couldn't believe how many gears this thing has. It just kept shifting and shifting and shifting and shifting. So, steering feel. I mean, this car is amazing. The way that it communicates to you as a driver, it's just telling you everything that's going on. My friend JP says, because he has an Alpha as well, and he says that the closest thing he can describe it is that sometimes he doesn't have to turn the steering wheel. He just thinks about what he wants to do in the car, and it seems like the car just automatically wants to turn the direction that he's thinking. So that's a pretty good way of describing it. It's very in tune to the driver. Like it communicates so well to the driver. So everyone's talking about this DNA mode, and I actually love it. I keep it in the natural N mode about 99% of the time that I drive. It seems to be just the perfect combination for city driving, for freeway driving. The A mode. So the dash lights up when you do that. And anytime you switch your modes, the dash lights up, which kind of reminds you what mode you're in, which is really nice. The A mode is interesting. I haven't really found it to be very useful. I tried it for a whole day, put it in the A mode, and it was just a little bit too sluggish for my needs. I suppose that if I was going skiing or if it was a really slippery, wet day, that might come in handy. My favorite mode, the dynamic mode. This mode is amazing. GM developed this technology a long time ago, and it's actually the first car I've ever owned that utilizes this technology. So I'm really impressed. Hats off to GM for developing this one. But it uses the magnetic particles in the shocks that immediately stiffen the shocks, and I'm talking milliseconds. So I could be coming up on a fast corner and turn it to the dynamic mode, and within milliseconds it stiffens up the car, and it's amazing. I love it. I'll give you guys an example. Watch this. This car is not necessarily the fastest car in a straight line, nor is it the best handling car, nor is it the best braking or anything, but it does it so well, and it's so balanced. It kind of reminds me of the Porsche 944 turbos that I used to race, and it's just a really well balanced car, and it's just so much fun to drive. It's not that I just need to drive it fast. I don't. I rarely drive it fast. But when I do, it's there. And when I just want to go slow and just go to run some grocery errands or things like that, it's just a joy to drive. It's just so much fun. And that reason alone, I could forgive all the other faults. That reason alone is why I love this car.
So now that we've talked about all the things I love about the car, let's talk about some of the things that I find annoying about the car. So the first thing is this key fob. So if you turn it over, you'll see the panic button. That panic button is way out in the open, and it's really easy to activate this while the key's sitting inside your pocket. And I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally activated the panic button on this car as I'm walking up and down the stairs, once at about 5 o'clock in the morning, waking up everybody in the neighborhood, I'm sure. So that's really annoying. I wish I could make a little cover over this thing and make it a little bit easier to just, just not activate it accidentally. So that's the first thing. So another thing I don't like about this car is the unlock button. So I have a son who uses the back seat, and getting to the back of this car is the back doors of this car are a little bit difficult because you unlock it sometimes and you want to open the door and so then you go back in your pocket again and you have to unlock it again and so now you go, what a pain, twice in a row. Okay, now you gotta wait and then it'll unlock. So it's kind of a pain, and especially when you have your hands full with groceries or whatever and you want to get in the backseat of the car, you have to click it, and sometimes you're standing there forever. And then sometimes my son's trying to struggle to open the car door as you're unlocking the door, and then it's this whole cycle of no, don't pull on the door handle while I'm unlocking it. You guys know what I'm talking about. So that's another thing that's annoying to me. The other thing is the voice command in this car. It's not quite worked out yet, but they're close, but it's not all the way there yet. And so sometimes this voice command thing trips out on me, and you'll ask for it to dial a number and it'll come up with some weird random code thing that it repeats. It doesn't understand you, and you have to reset everything. So it's not quite there yet. The back seat in this car is really tight. You'd have to be a pretty short-legged person to get into this car comfortably. I've had passengers in here, no one's really complained yet, but I mean, you can tell just by looking at it that it's not much backseat leg room. So, and getting in and out is not that easy. I mean, you'd have to struggle a little bit to get in there. So, yeah, I think, but you know, again, would I sacrifice wheelbase and handling? Not one bit. I love the way this car handles. So if they could come up with a solution that doesn't compromise performance, maybe that would be good. The air conditioning in this car is another thing that is a little minor annoyance. So right now the air conditioning's off, but I want to turn, it's getting hot in here, so I'm going to turn the air conditioning on. So turn, nothing. Now it's starting to kick in. It's just on 1. I'm not even feeling a thing. 2, I'm not feeling anything. 3, I'm not feeling anything. 4, I'm not feeling anything. 5, I'm still not feeling anything. 6, I'm still not feeling it. And then all of a sudden, it's so loud. It's starting to cool off a little bit, but it's so loud in this car. So
wind noise. There's quite a bit of wind noise.
You hear that? Sounds like I'm a little bit of a wind tunnel in here. Not too bad, and it really only happens at higher speeds. So the other thing about this car is that it has this fly-by-wire brake technology, and if somebody could comment below and explain to me what the advantage of this fly-by-wire brake technology is, it'd be great. So without knowing why it's advantageous to have the system, I really prefer the feel of a traditional brake setup because it gives me a lot more progressive brake feel. So for example, my wife's Cayenne has a traditional braking system, and I quite like that a lot more because you can actually feel how deep you can go on the braking and not do any short braking or anything like that. So with this car, I've had it for 3 months now, so I'm used to it now, and I know how far to depress the pedal. But for the first few weeks that I had this car, I would constantly brake the car short, and it was quite uncomfortable for the passengers in the very beginning. I've gotten a lot better at it now. I'm still not sure if I can ever get it to the point where it's going to be as smooth as a traditional brake setup, but it's a lot better now. Another minor annoyance I have is with the eco mode. So if you have it on eco mode and you come to a light and it shuts off the engine and you're going to make a right turn or a left turn, what happens is there's no power steering for the first split second, which makes it a little bit alarming initially, and then your brain kicks in and goes, oh yeah, there's no eco mode. But it's that thought that I have no power steering suddenly. So that's a minor annoyance. Nothing major really, but just something to keep in mind. So anyway, this is my car. As you can see, I've done a few accessories added to it. Most obvious being these wheel details. So these are interesting. I got these online. What happened was I curb rashed one of my wheels, and after that happened, I said to myself, "Oh boy, I'm not going to do that again." So I looked online to see what kind of solutions were available, and this company sells these urethane strips, and they adhere to the outer lip of your wheel. The theory is that these things protrude more than the aluminum part, and so when you brush up against a curb, the urethane will contact the curb before the wheel. Now, I'm not fully convinced that that's the case, considering these things don't protrude that much, barely. And so my theory is that, would they actually prevent it? I'm really not willing to try and test it, but anyway, I got these cheap enough that I thought, I'll give it a shot. They haven't fallen off. I've had these things going pretty fast, and they haven't fallen off yet. And as far as the way they look, I'm still on the fence. I can't tell if it actually looks good or if it looks really cheesy. I'd love to hear you guys' comments and see what you guys think. The other addition I've done to this car is this. I added a simple flexible lip to the front of the car. All the other cars that I've had in the past, I've dented or cracked the paint right here because of the high parking curbs, and you'll just, even if you just slowly inch into the parking spot, you really can't tell how far forward you are. That's going to cause the paint to chip as long as you just touch that parking curb. So I added this thing on my previous car, and it seemed to work really well. So I want to try it out with this car. This car does come equipped with that parking sensor that beeps as you get closer. So, but even so, I just wanted that second additional layer of protection. I added this little sticker in the front of the car. It's a little homage to Auto Delta, which is the engineering group that historically was part of the racing wing of Alfa from the 1900s, if I'm not mistaken. I thought it was a nice little tribute to them. A lot of people can't decide what to do with the front license plate of the car. And I've seen a lot of Alfas out there with no front license plate. Well, in the state of California, it's mandatory that you have a front license plate, and you will get a ticket if you don't. I've spoken to other Alfa drivers in California who basically said, I'm going to take my chance and I'll pay the $300 and something fine if I get ticketed for that. I'm not willing to take that risk, and so I did this. There's two ways of doing this. There's an aftermarket kit that I found on online, and it was about $90, and I kind of said, well, it doesn't look that complicated. I'm sure I can rig something up myself. So what it is underneath here is the tow hook cover. It's a little round plastic cover. Pop it off, and there's a female threaded knuckle in there, and all you have to do is go to the hardware store. In my case, I went to the hardware store and I found the male threaded part as a stud, and I drilled a hole in the back of the plastic mounting bracket and ran 2 lock nuts to sandwich in there, and that's it. And I've had this on for a couple months now. Not one problem with it, so it works really well. Yes, it's not as good as a clean non-license plate front end, but I think it's a reasonable compromise if you ask me. So, in addition to that, I will show you the interior after this. But the last thing I added to this car is this Cloverleaf Triangle. Now, some people have commented online that putting this triangle on a non-quadrifolio is like putting an M badge or an AMG badge on your non-AMG or non-M model car, and I disagree, because it doesn't say anything about this being a quadrifolio. It doesn't say it's not even the same size as a quadrifolio badge. A quadrifolio badge is twice as big, and this, all it is the Alfa Cloverleaf, which is a standard Alfa Cloverleaf in all Alfas. So the reason I got it was because I think the car is really beautiful from the front and the back. The side view is pretty, but it was a little bit bland, and I just wanted a little bit of something on the side of the fender wings to kind of pop it out a little bit. So that was a nice solution. I've also found other ones where I've seen other people who have put Veloce badges, and to me that's even worse, because this is not a Veloce, and so to me that's more akin to putting an M badge or an AMG badge on your car. So that's the exterior changes that I've done to the car. Inside of the car, sorry, my car's a little bit dirty right now. My son has this tendency to get in my car with sand in his shoes. Inside the car, I added this little red on-off button, which I actually love, and I don't care if you guys like it or not. I love it. I think it just pops. Anyway, so that's what I've added, and that's basically everything I've done to the car. Oh yeah, I've also added a dash cam. For me, I always wanted an Alfa. I wanted an Alfa for the longest time, but I was always afraid of getting an Alfa because of their stereotype reputation of being unreliable and rusting and all kinds of problems. It's really funny, my friend Lance was, when I told him I got an Alfa, his first comment was, "Dave, you should get an Alfa, you know, that thing's gonna break down on you, it's gonna leak oil." And every week he would send me messages like, "Are you still happy with the Alfa? Do you like it? Is that broken down on you yet?" And I'll always respond with, "No, Lance, I've had 3,600 miles on it now, and I still love the car, and it hasn't broken down on me, and it's been extremely reliable, and I still love this car." So just so you guys know, Lance is actually quite an automotive expert. He was actually the 1990 IMSA GTU champion. So yeah, he knows a thing or two about cars. He's been around the car world for a while. But love you, Lance, but gotta make fun of you anyway. So there you have it. That's my review of my 2017 Alfa Romeo Giulia TI. I love this car.